Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Want more details? Go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Get Real, Chatting with Catherine. Today's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be exploring with Sarah Moloney. Sarah Moloney is a Canadian woman who has served in our Canadian military as a medic. She's been to Afghanistan, she's a mom, and she has recently decided to pursue becoming a birthing doula. Her journey is intriguing, and I love this kind of exploration. If you'd like to read more about Sarah's story, you can go to the guest page on letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and find her name, click on it, and read her story. Very interesting, and I think you're going to enjoy this today. So thanks for joining us. Let's go meet Sarah. We are back with the lovely Sarah Moloney, and I am so thrilled to be able to introduce people to your story, Sarah. Thank you for joining me. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me, Catherine.
You are welcome. I noticed in your bio, and I encourage people to go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com to read Sarah's bio, which is also her story, and it's I find it very intriguing, and it's the kind of exploration and story I love to be able to bring to people. But I want to share with people something else, because in your story you talk about fate. And one of the things that I think is really kind of funny is that this is how, to me, synchronistic things happen. I wouldn't even be talking to Sarah today. I wouldn't even be knowing anything about her life if it wasn't for her connection to my son in Ontario, and we live in Alberta, and so I would never have met I would never have made the connection if I hadn't gone with my inspiration to follow people that inspire me and things that people say. It wouldn't have happened, for starters. So I find this part really interesting, and so after my son was killed in a car accident last year, I was on his Facebook page, and so then I started connecting with some people that he had known and had experience with, and Sarah was one of those people. And not everybody did I make another connection with, but I just kind of was following Sarah, and because she's such a bubbly person. And then, out of the blue, I had a dream. And in the dream, it was my son telling me to get Sarah on the show. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. What why would I be having a dream like that?" But it was really clear. It was very specific. And I think he called you by your previous name. So it was very definite that he knew who he was talking about. And I said, "But I don't know, what would I be talking to Sarah about? I don't know Sarah that well. I don't know So I went to my daily routine, and I left the dream. It was just a dream, and I thought, well, what interesting dream. But it wouldn't go away, and it kept on chasing me all day, you could say. And finally I said, I have no idea what this means, but I'm going to write to Sarah. So I did. And I said, told her my story. I had this dream. I know you probably think I'm crazy, but you didn't, Sarah. This is a long way of me saying fate, destiny. Sarah, what do you think? Is fate and destiny, is that how you have lived your life? Is that something that you totally always follow, or was this just something new for you?
No, I'm a firm believer and I'm a firm follower. And fate comes from instinct. The very second something inside of you says, do, follow, go, something, like there's just something happens, that to me is the undertone to fate. Because it's, people shrug it off all the time, and the second you shrug it off, you've now just diverted from something natural that was built inside of you to happen. That's the way I feel.
Yeah. Missed opportunities. I think that's where a lot of missed opportunities happen because people don't
Yep.
follow that, that moment because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We only know today. And at that point, which was, several months ago, it was only it was a dream. It was an idea. And from that has translated to a relationship, a broadening of my understandings of life, learning about a doula. I had no idea really what a doula was. I knew the concept of midwifery, but not even the expression of doula. So I'm just so intrigued. And before we get into your doula work, Sarah, because I know that's where you're at today and you're passionate about it and it's so exciting. But let's go back because I really think it's the journey that really makes for the depth and interest in it's the reason we share each other's stories and why we're intrigued by each other's stories. So I want to go back to Sarah in high school.
I don't.
I don't want you to stay there. I just want you to help us to go with you
All right,
on
we're
your
just
journey.
taking a trip. Okay.
So in high school, where did your first desire or thought of actually joining the Canadian military, where did that come from?
Baked. So I graduated high school with honors, and I applied to colleges all around. My hometown is Cambridge, Ontario. So I applied for colleges all around, and knowing I really needed to get into Conestoga. It was the closest to my home. I had no vehicle. I had no money. It was just a whim. But I applied for nursing. It was, and even nursing wasn't something I really thought about. It was a good friend of mine's mom who said, you should apply for nursing. There's something about you. I keep hearing this my whole life. There's something about you. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do nursing. And I applied for nursing, and I got accepted to 4 out of the 5 colleges.
Wow.
For nursing, except for Conestoga. So I'm like, what do? No money, no car, can't go anywhere. I did what every adult-ish teenager thought, and I said, I'll work in a factory just for a little while till I get some money.
Right.
And I got a lot of money. I worked at a pretty neat place. We used to make precision airplane parts for 747s. Ooh. And little turbo boosters that went inside the engines, and it was great. You know what? I liked it. I like physical labor. I do, but I knew that wasn't my life. And about a year went by, and it was the classic, oh, I'm making lots of money, I'll just wait a little longer. And so that hit me. So the college bug, I guess you could say, came and went. And then it was about a year and a half. I graduated at 18, so I was 19-ish, and I was sitting around. I used to work afternoons, so it was 3 in the afternoon till 1 in the morning. And I was sitting around at 1 in the morning eating Taco Bell or something god-awful at the time. And, and I didn't like where I was sitting,
Right.
I would never put down, a hardworking factory buff. Both my parents were and still are, but I knew it wasn't in my blood.
Right.
And so it's 1 in the morning, and I'm sitting in front of the TV, and I'm eating, and I'm watching, and that cheesy Canadian Forces commercial comes on. I am serious. It came on, like, it was just like a flash, and it came on. And I was like, and I watched it, and and I'd never seen it before. Honest to God, never seen it before. I had never thought of it. I don't come from a military background. I'd never seen a reservist. Like, if a tank ever rolled through my city, like, everything would just fall apart. They wouldn't know what was going on. It's not the norm.
Right.
So, commercial came on, and then it left, and it went away, and I never saw it again. And I was just like, blink, blink, like everything was, and literally.
Your receptors, it was
like
there for you.
Instinct.
Yeah.
Right? And within 3 days, I went to the recruiting office in Kitchener just to check it out. I was like, hey, this weird commercial came on. I kind of felt a force, and sure enough, I'm not kidding, I walked into that recruiting office. I applied for a TASOP at the time, which was a tactical acoustic sonar operator, and it doesn't exist anymore. And it was terrible. I don't even know why I would pick that, but I picked it because I was like, oh, I just randomly flipped a book. I said Navy, so I'm gonna get out of Cambridge. I'm gonna travel. I'm young. I'm getting out of here. I'm jumping on a boat, and I failed. I failed this stupid sonar thing. I couldn't even do it. So they gave me a list and said, here's what you can do. And then those magical words hit me again, and this gentleman there said, there's something about you. Would you consider medic? And I mean, even after applying for nursing, I looked at that page and I was like, nope. And I flipped through it, and it wasn't even on my list. Wow. It wasn't even on. And this guy's like, there's just something about you. Would you consider it? And of course it's highlighted with all the, Canadian Forces lies of, do you want to travel? Do you like camping? Do you want to make friends?
Camping.
Like, all right. And I applied. I did all my stuff, and that was in like February. And I went back to my job thinking, I might hear back in 6 to 12 months or so. And about 3 weeks later, they're like, hey, really need you, really want you. Can you be here in 2 weeks? Or no, it's like a week and a half, because I was like, I can't even give 14 days notice to my job. I'm like, what am I supposed to say?
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I really don't think I can just up and leave. Like, I don't think I can do that legally. So I was like, I'll get the next one. You just give me a call when the next one comes around. And the guy's like, no, this is it. You come now. And I was like, okay, I come now. That was it. And I told my parents, like, as I was leaving, I'm pretty sure, hey, join the Army. And that was it. And that's where it just started.
Were your parents and your family, were they rather surprised, let's say?
Yes.
Because, it's one thing, I must say for boys joining the Army, a lot of boys join the Army, and there are different reactions, but we do still have this gender thing going on where for a girl, and especially if I may say, a girly girl, which you do seem to be, Sarah, and I mean that in the most complimentary way, but you are very feminine. And so, and the military isn't usually equated with feminine, although there are plenty of women in the military that are, but we don't normally see that. That's not, it's not even presented to us, really. If we do see women in movies who are in military, unless they're, in the old Bing Crosby movies where they're also dancing and singing, they're not usually very feminine. They're usually the ones who are, very aggressive and more on their masculine side. But so did your family and friends kind of go, Sarah, what, are you kidding me? Or what?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but at that point, I was like, I'm leaving.
Like,
it wasn't even like, hey, let's talk about it. It was fully my decision. I was an adult, and it was something I just couldn't let go.
Well, and then you go to basic training. If you probably went to Saint Jean, was it
Yep.
Saint Jean, Quebec, where
Yep.
basic training? Okay, so because that's where my son went to, and okay, but basic training is not. It's not just like, I mean, basic training is pretty serious stuff. I mean, you're physically challenged, mentally challenged, emotionally challenged, the works.
Mhm.
Did you give that, did you walk in and find out, like, once you were there, holy crow, or did you have a kind of a bit of an expectation of what this was going to be like as far as challenging you in those ways?
I had no idea, uh, but I knew instinct. I knew it was going to be what it was.
Okay.
I may look feminine, but it's more of a farce. um, I was a tomboy growing up my whole life. I've played every sport. I played rugby, and I was on the wrestling team, and I like field hockey. You name it.
I didn't mean you didn't look like you could be athletic. I'm
Yes.
not saying I was. This is not. I was not trying in any way to insult you with that. I'm just saying that. Okay, I've already said it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
okay, but still, basic training is not just like athletics. It's not just it. There's the mental thing. I mean, there's a whole process of kind of breaking you down to get you to be who they want you to be, or to be
Yes.
able to take orders and such. Like I'm going to tell you straight out, there's no way in hell I could ever go through basic training. I couldn't even take orders from my parents, never mind anyone else. I mean, that's that's just would never. I couldn't get my head around that. So it takes a special kind of person to be able to sort of let go of their own, I don't know, spirit, I guess, in a way, to follow orders and become what someone else has sort of decided for you to be. Or did you see it that way?
Um, I didn't. I wasn't. It's not to say I have no spirit, but I wasn't spirited. I
Right.
um, I was never rebellious in the sense that I didn't feel I had to take orders or anything like that. I never snuck out of my house at night. I was on the honor roll from the time I can remember till I graduated. I was raised Old English. My grandparents are from England. I believe in rules and regiment and discipline, and
Ah,
I like it's inside of me because it's
right.
how I was raised as well. So being told what to do wasn't it didn't bother me because
Because you were
I
used to it,
had that
yeah.
I had
Yeah,
that,
I came
but
out
I
bucking the
followed
rules,
that
so.
too,
What's
right? Like
that?
you can I followed it too when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I didn't push the boundaries. My dad was 6'2", 260 pounds. You listen. You tend to listen.
Well, yeah, there's that, but I mean, I think there's also, like you say, it's part of your nature, because there are people who really do well with rules. And I mean, I have lots of people
Yeah.
in my family that they're all about the rules, and they like rules, and they like everything clear cut, whereas I like to see what the rules are and then say, okay, how many places can I bust
Yeah.
this?
Just tweak
I
it a little
I
bit.
admittedly, I've just always been that way. It's like I think rules are very ridiculous. I don't like them at all. I mean, I see their necessity in certain areas. It's good to have rules on the road. It's good to have some in the air when you're, those kinds of things. But otherwise, I just kind of think they're all things that are set up for because of our fear. We have a fear of something, so we make a rule. Everybody does this, everybody will be safe. And I think I've seen so much in my life where people followed rules and people still got hurt. So that I just kind of go, see, that doesn't work. And so that's just me. But we're not here to talk about me. But I can't help it. Um, okay, so you had no problem with the rules part, and so basic training did you find was it harder on women than it is on men, or is it equal opportunity brutal?
I would say it was equal. You know, one of my best friends, even to this day, was a big, jolly man who had just as much trouble running and getting over that wall as a small female. So I think
Okay.
it was pretty equal.
Okay. So then when obviously the world went cuckoo for a while, and we ended up going to war and all kinds of things. So were you asked to go to Afghanistan, or did you volunteer, or how did that work?
When my kids were a little bit older, and when I could cut a break in between my husband at the time, between him going and being busy as well as a soldier, I volunteered.
Okay, so I guess I jumped ahead of your story. You got married to a soldier? Your
I was
first marriage, you
previously,
were
yes.
married to a soldier
Mhm.
and had kids, and he went to Afghanistan first?
Yep, and Dart, and Afghanistan again.
Okay, that has got to be hard on a family.
Yep.
So so at this time you had two children in that marriage?
Mhm.
So when he was gone, you were home with kids, and working full time. I'm
Yeah.
assuming still being a soldier.
Still, and that's a huge thing that some people forget is I wasn't a stay-at-home mom, or you know, I didn't work at Tim Hortons. I was a soldier too.
Yeah, and with children at home. So how do the children, being a parent with two parents as soldiers in these kinds of situations, what was that like for you and for the family life? What would you say about that?
It's a hard life. It's a
Yeah.
hard life, and people on the outside either don't understand, don't approve, or just pity us. It's literally just one of the three. That's really
Right.
all it. There's no acceptance. There's no there's no middle ground. People just either don't understand, don't like it, or
Yeah.
just very confused with the nature itself.
Well, I think too, it's probably a lot is because when we do see, like you say, the advertisements and the whatever, it's usually a single person traveling the world and, like you say, camping and challenging themselves. The real life of a soldier is not that. It's not that. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't or can't be fun obviously adventure, and there's the camaraderie, and there's certainly benefits to it, but it is a world that in some ways also excludes the outside, because
It's a very lonely world.
yeah, and it doesn't have a place for the dynamics of it aren't very inclusive. Like, you go to a dinner party and someone says, and what do you do, which people always say. And if you say I'm a soldier, I'm pretty sure that ends the conversation. Or, like you say, it's either all or nothing. Ends the conversation. I don't think I can do that conversation. Or it's like, seriously? Oh my God! Did you ever kill anybody? Does it? I can hear that kind of people
Yeah.
who, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They
But the
don't.
other side of that is you day to day you're coming home to children, and children that are missing one parent at one time or another. Was there ever a time when you were, I mean, other than conception, was there ever a time when you were both in the same place at the same time?
Nope.
Wow. So no wonder that didn't ended the situation.
Salt. Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. And and so then you went to Afghanistan, and so when you went as a medic, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell me, Sarah, because this story is not very well talked about. It's not talked about actually at all. I've never heard about what people found when they got to Afghanistan, especially in a position as medic. What could you tell for the audience, for people watching this, can you say what you were briefed by the military before you went, of course, and you had probably a certain expectation of what you would find. Is there a difference between what you thought you would find and what you did find?
Of course.
What would the biggest difference be?
I'd go back in a heartbeat. If it weren't for four lovely little souls who terrorize the other side of the house, I would be back.
What would call you?
I would probably set up a mud hut there.
What would call you there? What is it? The people, the landscape? What is it that?
Only a soldier could really understand the fine details of what it is. It's the sand, it's the dust, it's the heat, it's the people. It was for as much bad, there was so much good, and if you were fortunate enough to be exposed to the good, it literally just grabbed your soul. It was the weapon on your side. It was the loneliness, but it was also, as you say, the camaraderie. It was the vehicles. It was the ammo. It was the smell.
That is very interesting. So it's in your blood, Sarah. It
Yes.
appears that it really is in your blood. So, you know, obviously our hope for, and my intention with doing this show is because I have a vision for an exquisite world, a place where peace is everywhere. And I have come through my own maturing and my own exploring to understand that really peace is within, and global peace will happen when each of us individually has that within. So
Yes.
I don't think it's unrealistic, but at the same time, I now can accept that just because I have a desire for global world peace doesn't mean everyone else shares that. So, you know, my understanding of Afghanistan before the war, after the Russian war, and then before this one, it's a beautiful landscape. It's a beautiful vegetation and really something amazing in the mountains and so forth. Is that could you see that even in war? Could you see the beauty of the landscape in that, you know, not just the sand and the dust, but the life? Could you see that, feel it?
Oh, without a doubt, Catherine. The location we were at and the time of year, we got there in October, and we were there till late April. And so when I arrived, the trees were green and full of foliage, full of pomegranates. Children were everywhere. It was beautiful. And then the winter months came, and you know, every day you stood out on post, you saw the trees, and then they went through their fall winter season as you would see here. And then by the time we were leaving again, everything was green and beautiful and glowing once again. So we had seen the cycle as far as the environment go.
Because, you know, when we see mostly what we see on the news, we don't see, you know, almost to me it feels like we don't, whenever we see a war news footage from a war zone, we only see, well, it's lifeless. It feels like it's lifeless, like the whole area is lifeless. It's like going from, you know, Technicolor video to black and white. It always feels like the life is sucked right out of the story to show us such a, like, it's almost like it doesn't matter where war happens, because if it's happening in that area, it's already lifeless. Whereas if you saw war in one of our community, like a Canadian city or something, that we know what that looks like. We know what the life, the bustle, the energy. But when we see it on the news, whenever there's something catastrophic like that, we tend to see it without the life, or that is my perception. And that's why part of the reason I wanted to ask you those questions, because you're very much alive and being there in that environment with a job to do, yes, but you also as a human being have a perception of where you're standing on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just think that's so important to share with people, that so, because I also, I'm committed to, part of the reason I want to share people's stories, different people's stories, people that have experienced life in different ways, is because I really truly believe that as we get to know each other, we fear each other less. And when we let go of our fear, then the hate can leave. And when the hate is gone, then we can really become friends. Because I really feel like I'd love to get to a place where we're not just tolerating each other, but we accept and embrace each other. And I just feel like your story is one of those stories that can help us to create a bridge to understanding and to being in peace. So, and the fact that you would say, you would go back in a heartbeat, tells me that there's something vibrant and joyful in Afghanistan that we need to hear about. That's joyful. So, and I don't want to dwell there, because your story doesn't stop there. Is there anything else that you would like to share about your experience in Afghanistan that you think people don't know, that it would be helpful for them to know, or even about the military?
It's funny. I went over with Edmonton because I wanted what we call a role 1 position. I wanted to be frontline. I wanted to be out of what we call CAF, is the huge camp in Kandahar. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to work in the hospital. I didn't want any of that. I wanted to be as far out in the desert as you could put me, with a giant group of soldiers and just living the tour. I really did. And so that's why I volunteered, because I was posted to Petawawa, and because we're a 3rd line unit, the unit I was with, I didn't want to go with them, who was going the roto after. Right. I volunteered to go early so I could go with Edmonton, right? And I volunteered to go with Edmonton, and I went over with PPCLI. And when you go over with a hard group of wild cowboys, who, I'll admit, I went over for combat. That's what I assumed. I'm a medic, but I'm also a soldier. I went over for combat. And what we received when we got there was very, very different. By the middle of the tour, I'm still very close with all the guys I went on tour with. And I married one of them. And he'll tell you, because he was a prime example, when he got there was a lot of stigma inside. There was a lot of hate. There was a lot of, this happened and we lost a bunch of brothers and I'm going to carry that around and that's just the way it's going to be. And I'm telling you, by the middle of the tour, every one of those guys can tell you, like, I watch them. They think I didn't see them handing the kids crayons when we're out on patrols every day. And by the middle of the tour, a lot had changed. Yeah. And what I kept saying, and it didn't take me long, it did not take me long to be with the locals and to be literally just consumed. They were just the most wonderful people. As I kept explaining to everybody, there are bad people all over the world, period. Yeah. That is a fact. Not everyone is bad that's in Afghanistan. Yeah. you know, there are bad people in Toronto. People
Yep.
still go to Toronto every weekend. You know, there are bad people. Sure, there's bad people in Owen Sound, but there's a lot of old people too. You
But
know,
you know,
there.
Sarah, that's one of the things that when um, because I was involved in politics, a number of years ago, and I really, was aware of current events and reasons behind war and so forth. And at one point, I had this understanding. You know how we often say, like, you talk about fate and instinct, and also the when something bad happens, we often don't understand, and people will say, why did these things happen? But there's usually something comes out of it that is greater. A greater good can come out of something that seems so terribly bad. And that was what you're saying. What you're speaking to now is confirming for me something I thought was maybe the reason behind it, but I didn't know. But we wouldn't have a whole lot of Canadians going to Afghanistan had that not happened. Had we not had this, we would not have had that many people. And Canadians do tend to have a kind of an open heart. So even though the guys go over there with this, yeah, I'm gung ho and I'm gonna, get into this fight, there's this humanity, and not just Canadians, all people, and I suspect people from all the other forces that went to a war zone. It's like what happened in World War II. You had lots of people ending up marrying people that in these other countries that they wouldn't have otherwise. They wouldn't have known, and bringing that culture to Canada, being this melting pot of different cultures. It's how we get to know each other, and reading about war from the very media propaganda kind of war stories, and hearing about them from people who've really been there, who are not full of hate, who are able to see the beauty of the land and of the people. That is, to me, how we're going to come to peace, because this is when you start to open up your mind and say, well, wait a minute, I thought, I was told these people were like animals. Well, they're not. They're just like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that's really what you're saying, is you found, like, the children are children, and doesn't matter where you're from.
Mm-hmm. They were beautiful people. They really were.
That does my heart such good to hear that from you, because that's I feel like how we're going to heal the world. And so but at the same time, in order for you to see that, you had to make sacrifices, which you did for your country. And this is something I always say to people, regardless of how you feel about politics or our military and what have you. A soldier is following orders, which some of us can't do, me included, but some people will do for their country. And what I'm wanting to say is that this is how we're going to change the world, is by having the soldier on the ground, the tourist, the person traveling, the medic. This is how we get to know each other. It's unfortunate that sometimes we do it through war, but it feels like, as human beings, sometimes we need to have a reason stronger than what might initially look like the reason, in order to do that. And so I guess this is one of those places where I'm just going to be grateful for the outcome, that and that you came home and were able to share that part of that story with the world, because I think that is what's going to make the difference. And it's part of the reason why, Sarah, I refer to you as a woman of substance, because you are multidimensional, you have depth, you have this is not in any way to say other women don't. I'm saying that we all do, but some of us, it's more visible than others. Some of us who grab a hold of life and live it, as opposed to letting life live us. You kind of grabbed onto the, like you say, following fate and your instinct to to travel and to see things that we might not see, and then to be open to share, because there are other people. I might have had that dream and then asked you, and you might have said, I don't think so. But you didn't, and so I'm very thrilled about that. So let's just jump ahead a little bit then. From as a medic, you see, life and death up close, and in also working with children. And then, so you've served for what, 11 years?
Yes.
Yeah. And then just recently got married again to your soldier husband, and created a blended family with your 2 children, a girl, a boy, and his boy. And then had a new baby boy, which is just awesome, just recently. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
So, and at this point, you decided enough of the military. Can you tell us about, because you would go back in a heartbeat, but and in your bio you do talk about it a bit. It kind of came to a point of choosing between your family and your career. But but it's more than that, isn't it? It's not just that you're choosing between the two. It's sort of a place of understanding that your children at this point really need you, and also the physical physical weight that it put on your body. It came to a point where you kind of had to make a different choice. Do you want to speak to that, Sarah?
Sure.
How you came to that kind of understanding?
First and foremost is, like I said, I truly believe in what I did. Me personally, I can't speak for any other soldier. I can't speak for any soldier that lost his life or the families left behind, because you can't compare losing. I lost brothers and sisters. I can't compare losing to the beauty of Afghanistan. They're not comparable. No. But I take that bad and I take that good, and they're on different levels in my body, and that's how I have to carry them. I can't carry them. I love so much about Afghanistan, but yes, it took so much from us as well.
Yes.
It takes a very unique type of person to accept both. That's for sure. So I fully believe in what I did. I'm sure I'm leaving a lot out that is probably best as far as what I did over there. And but I will never get to do that again.
Right.
That's not because we're not there per se anymore. It's not our direct line. It's nothing like, I will never, ever, doesn't matter where we go, that time in my life will never happen again. The things I did to the people that were there, keeping our AO safe because of things that I've done, and the men around me, that'll never happen again. So it's hard. It's hard to just go back to doing what you do. When we're not at war, we maintain for war. That's always the big joke. But true. Yeah, when my body started to take a different route than the avenue I was pushing it to go, it got hard. And it really, like I stated, it's very simple. It really plays on your mind when you can't do what you want to do.
Right.
And I'm not talking like the normal mundane stuff. Like, I want to put a 75-pound bag on my back and run around. I want to do that. That's what I did. I want to do Ironmans. I can't do that anymore. I can't, a lot took its toll. So, yeah.
Well, you paid, that's the thing, is I certainly do not mean to suggest that it was, to glorify war. I'm not trying to do that. I just think that it's important to notice that something good did come from this, even though, yes, you've paid a price, and many other families have paid a heavy price.
Mhm.
And war is that paying
Yes.
of prices, and it's
Always
not
has.
some, I'm not advocating it, but I'm just noticing that there is, it's like anything that happens to us, it can seem so terribly awful, senseless, have no meaning seemingly, and then you start to look and say, well, I grew from that. I grew as a person, I grew as a country, I grew as a society, as a human beings. We started to see, and yeah, I think it would be great if we get to the point where we don't need a military at all to prepare for any war, because we've decided not to do it, and yet still have those amazing things that someone like you, who enjoys carrying a 75-pound bag around in a rucksack, and marching and what have you, you can still get the exhilaration of physical challenge, but we don't have to do it through war. I would love to see that happen, no doubt. But so you had that, and you had a family, and then on top of that you were having another baby, so it was like, all right, now I'm at a choice point, I'm sure. You realized you were never going to do that again, and you couldn't recreate the other experience that you loved, and probably you wouldn't want to keep recreating it, or if that was the case, you'd come to not love it maybe.
Yeah.
But so now you're at this point where you're having this new baby and looking at, what was it, the experience of going through birthing your own child that led you to look at what's available,
Yes.
what are the other options? Okay, so
Yes.
tell us about that.
That was really exciting. I was venturing down, the very stressful path of, oh, okay, so now what am I doing when I grow up? Because I was leaving the military, and it was like, uh-oh, I'd been doing what I was told to do for 11 years, and now somebody was saying, okay, now what would you like to do? And I was like, I don't know. What, you tell me what to do. Like, just tell me what I should do next, and then I'll get out of the army and do that. And it was very hard. It was very hard to, when you get out on a medical retirement, medical release, they offer you some aid for schooling.
Right.
Which is great. But you have to say, this is what I want to be when I grow up. And I was a lifer. I wanted to stay in for as long as till they kicked me out, was always my expression. I'm staying in till they kick me out.
Or so you got to be a general, like your
yeah.
grandparents thought. That's so cute.
So when at 30 years old, 10 years ago, my life was set. So at 30, someone says, great, now what do you want to do? It was very hard.
Yeah.
I couldn't give up 11 years of medical, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to get into nurse. Everybody's like, great, you can go nursing. I didn't want to go nursing.
Right.
I didn't want to do any of that. I was pregnant at the time. My other two births were classic hospital, every medical intervention you could think of, induced for both, just normal. I have a very bad habit of letting life just go, letting life just happens, right?
Yeah, right.
And you really get tired of that. Eventually, you just have to grab it and say, "Hey, I remember you. You were life." And so I wanted to slow things down. It really feels
like that's what you were doing this time. It's like it's my turn now.
Yes, and I got to slow things down. Right. And when I looked into the doula stuff, and I was like, hey, I want to try this. I want to do this. And literally, I went down to Toronto. I met with my mentors. I began the workshop, the training, and I left that weekend going, oh my gosh! I was like, I need a hug. I feel like the worst mother in the world. I can't believe I went through these births like this. There's so many ways and options and avenues, and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I felt
alive.
I did. I felt alive, and I felt that other women really needed help knowing the things that I didn't even know also. I thought I was a medic and I didn't even know these things and nobody told me, and the hospitals lie. I'm serious. And
Yeah.
and really, you know, the women would just laugh at me because I was at this workshop and every time they played a video I was like, that makes perfect sense. Why are we doing it this way? Oh, and
Well,
and
don't
so
you think too? It's so much about it. Feel like you were in the it's the medical field, it's a medical practice, but birthing is such a natural feminine, like it's part of us. Giving birth is it's not a medical procedure. It is it's something that happens whether you have a doctor there or not. Now I get it. A lot of women died in childbirth years ago when we didn't have the understanding. However, it's like the pendulum swung so far the other way that we totally lost it. And I'm so thrilled to hear about the empowerment. That's what this feels like. This is giving women back the right to birth the way they want to.
Yes, the way they're supposed to.
That's a natural thing. And that doesn't mean, and I've seen some of your, you have a great website, and I have that on your guest page, but you could refresh my memory. It's Doula, Sarah Doula.
Onceupon-a-doula.org.
Onceupon-a-doula.org?
Yep.
Okay. And if I missaid that, it's definitely on the, we'll have it on the video too. But you've got some really amazing stories there, and about it's not about making somebody wrong for choosing. Like, there are some women who want to have a cesarean, they even want to elect to have it, and you know what, great. It's about offering choices, isn't it? About for women who say, what else is available, what is possible, what can I do, how does my body work? I mean, that seems like part of what you're doing, teaching women something we were not taught by our society, by our mothers, by our, we just weren't taught. It's like when I was 12 years old, when you get your first menstrual period, there are girls around you who go into shock when that happens because they haven't been told. And when they do find out, they're handed a Kotex pad and told, yeah, this is going to happen to you every month, but they still don't get told, what does it mean to my body? What's happening to my body? So I really want you, Sarah, to help us. I don't want you to go into the whole thing about doula, because we'll do that on some really great shows with you. But just for beginning, a doula is not a midwife, right?
Right.
Okay, so what is a doula?
A doula is, by textbook terms, a non-medical aid, per se. We are a professional birthing coach. Okay. We assist the mother mentally and physically before, during, and after birth, just without any of the medical procedures. We can't catch the baby, per se.
What we're saying is that a doula is a non-medical person who is who's involved with the mom throughout her pregnancy and after and during, but doesn't touch the baby, doesn't catch the baby when it's born. So is it a emotional support? Is it physical support? How does that work?
Exactly. It's the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. We provide, without drawing a fine line, we provide everything that you wouldn't necessarily get, say, in a hospital. We also,
so like having a really
during
good
our prenatals, yes, a really good friend who knows how to keep the labor progressive. A lot of times when you're left by yourself or you're unaware, you're not familiar with positional changes, pressure techniques, the stages in the labor, and the things you should be doing within those stages to make sure that you're progressing properly on your own to the point, again, everybody chooses their own birth path, but for labor to go on the way you want it to go on, without any interventions.
And is during the pregnancy itself, like before you get to labor, is there a process of, helping her to, because there's things you can do, which I understand now. I mean, it's been a long time since I had my babies, but I do understand that you could do things with your body, exercises and diet and massage and stuff that will prepare you for the labor to facilitate it in a much more easy manner. Is that part of what you do?
Oh, a huge asset to a positive birth,
Yeah.
is proactive, and it is a proactive approach. We do everything to facilitate and to encourage the partner as well. We can do a lot of training and technique. So in early labor, which a lot of the time we like to leave just for the two of them, it helps promote a lot of oxytocin and love and enhancing and things if it's just the two of them. But we help and can show a partner proper techniques and massages. We do things like what we call the double hip squeeze if she's having a bit of back pain. We do a lot of birthing ball techniques, which they can help. Yeah, you name it. A lot of
exercises and relaxation stuff too, breathing and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of where you guys come in.
And getting the body into position beforehand is the best thing. As much as we don't like squats are the best thing for you, right?
Yeah.
So we really promote how to listen to your body, right? And when to go about it. So there's a lot of time where there's either first time moms, or because not two births are the same.
Right.
And everybody's very different. So understanding what happens in each stage of labor is very beneficial, so that you know roughly how long, what to look for, when to call, things like that. A doula has decreased the amount of medical interventions and cesareans and you name it, because we educate the women, and it's not stepping into the future, it's actually just bringing it back.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Just educate the women in knowing how to listen to their body, so that they know what stage they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the time you'll go to the hospital and they'll send you home.
Yeah.
That can be very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
If you had known and you had your body ready and you went in there at 5 centimeters and providing you want a hospital birth, and you went in there and you were good to go, you alleviate laying in a hospital bed and having the intervention role. And as soon as you step foot into that pathway, unfortunately, you're pretty much locked in. And unless you know that you have options, even if you want a hospital birth and just say you want a hospital birth and you want an epidural, there are still options that people don't know about. You do not have to lay on a bed starving and feeling alone and not progressing in your labor. There are so many ways, and hiring a doula can mean so much more at home in a comfortable place, and when the time is right, then taking your time, going to the hospital when it's ready, and really alleviating any other further complications, and really just going there when you are progressed.
So a doula isn't just for people who are doing a home birth or a water birth. It's the whole process, so just to make the experience more natural, more ease. It's like the wise women in the old days that used to come and be with a pregnant woman and help her through the whole process so that it was with ease. But we don't have that now, with families being all over the place, grandparents and children not in the same location. So really a doula is providing a service that is actually an old way of being, but we're bringing it back. Do doulas also help with like breastfeeding, like helping moms to learn that part of it? Is that also part of your expertise to assist with that?
Yes. Especially the most important latch is going to be the soonest and right after the birth. That's the best time, and we really, if that's your choice, I mean, everybody has a choice, but obviously breastfeeding is the best and most natural way to feed.
Sure.
And as long as you can comfortably and carry on by making that first attempt, which is really what we help promote, and then you're really just set, and you set the tone for your bonding, you set the tone for your body establishing everything you need to with your newborn. So we assist right away, because obviously that's the most important. And then when we do our postpartum visits, when we come back, we make sure that everything's good and mom is adjusting well, and the latch is good and sufficient for a proper feed and things like that. Yeah.
Wow, I find it so exciting, and I find that your journey to this point is awesome for people to you've had a life well lived, Sarah, and I mean, to me this is only the beginning. You're only at the very early stages, so what more what more can you grab onto? I mean, it's so exciting. Thank you for sharing this on the surface. We really haven't even gone into the deep, but for the most part we've at least covered some of this territory, because I want to bring more of your doula work to people so that they can become aware that it's available. Like I said, I didn't even know it was available. So I'm pretty excited about being able to take this adventure with you, and I want to thank you for being so candid with us and sharing your personal adventure with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, you have been listening to Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine and my guest, Sarah Moloney, and I want to invite you to go to her guest page and read her full bio and watch for more from Sarah Moloney in the future. Until next time, take care.
Wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page, preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.